I'm Lyriel Kane. I'm 22 years old, and I'm the first person in my family to finish college. For 4 long years, I juggled school and 2 jobs, working hard every single day. And finally, the day came when I graduated. I was ready to smile, to celebrate, to show my parents all my hard work. But instead of waving at me from the crowd, I got a last-minute text from them. It said, "Sorry, sweetie, the Martyr Super Bowl party's today. You know how much your dad loves it." I walked across that stage alone. I had my diploma in hand. I smiled for the camera, pretending everything was fine. But later, in my car, I cried until my makeup nissated down my face. That moment broke me. But it also changed me. It pushed me to rebuild my life. And that is my story. But before I continue, hit the subscribe button and tell me, where are you watching this from? And what time of day is it? I was born and raised in a place where dreams hardly ever came true. Toledo, Ohio. It was a small city. Everyone knew almost everything about everyone else. You knew how many cars your neighbors had, how many TVs they owned, and who borrowed money from whom. But it was too small for someone like me to hide. The house I lived in with my parents was old, built when my grandparents were alive. It had only 1 floor. The walls had once been cream-colored but were now gray because of the smoke from the kitchen and the dust of time. Our front yard had more dirt than grass. The iron fence was rusty, and the side gate always stuck. It made a loud clank every time I snuck out to go to the library. We weren't poor enough to go hungry, but we never really knew what it meant to be comfortable. My father, Thorin Kane, had worked at a General Motors car assembly plant for over 15 years. But when the plant closed, he drifted between different jobs, never thinking about insurance or the future. He lived by one simple rule: get through today, deal with tomorrow later. My mother, Varela, worked part-time at a nail salon. The rest of her time she spent on her phone, cooking on Facebook Live, or chatting with friends online. In our house, 3 things were treated like sacred rules: cold beer, football, and tradition. They didn't read books. They didn't watch the news unless it was about sports. They didn't go to parent-teacher meetings unless there was an emergency. If I brought home a certificate from school, like being on the honor roll, winning a writing contest, or getting perfect math scores, my mom would glance at it, nod, and keep flipping TV channels. My dad would say something like, "Good, but did you clean the house yet?" I learned early that I didn't belong in this house. I didn't like sports. I wasn't good at small talk. I didn't enjoy family gatherings where everyone only talked about new roofs or new cars. I loved books. I loved learning. I would read anything I could get my hands on. Sometimes I hid in the bathroom, so no one would tease me. I remember studying the 2008 financial crisis when I was only 13 years old. I learned about terms like risk analysis, sustainable investing, and behavioral finance. Words no one in my house had ever heard of. They called me a bookworm, a weirdo. Once my dad said to his friends right in front of me, "It's like this kid was born into the wrong house." Someone laughed. I laughed too, because I didn't know what else to do. But inside it hurt like a knife. I don't remember the last time my parents asked me, "Are you okay?" Or, "What's on your mind?" Family meals were always drowned in the sound of the TV. Every time I tried to talk about school, my mom would cut me off, saying, "Tell me later. This part's good." But later never came. I learned to stay silent. I learned to rely on myself. But I also learned to dream. I dreamed of a life beyond Toledo. A place where I didn't have to apologize for being different. A place where I didn't have to try to fit into a mold that was never meant for me. I dreamed of the day someone would say, "Lyriel, we need voices like yours." Or even just, "We see you." The older I got, the clearer it became. If I wanted to break free, I had to do it myself. No one was coming to rescue me. No one was going to hand me opportunities. I had to claim them. I also knew that to make this happen, I had to hide a lot. I applied to 10 universities without telling a single soul in my family. I remember the exact night I sent in my first application. It was a Friday evening. The house nestled of fried chicken, and the Michigan versus Ohio State game was on the TV. My dad had placed a $50 bet on the home team. My mom was baking chocolate chip cookies. I was in my room, door locked, using an old laptop I had worked all summer to buy from a pawn shop. My hands trembled as I clicked submit on my first application to the University of Michigan, a school I had never dared to say out loud. I sent 10 applications in total, all done in secret, late at night. I used fee waivers from my school counselor and searched for every small scholarship and grant I could find. I knew one thing for sure. Without financial aid, I could never leave Toledo. I hid the acceptance letters under my mattress. When the letter from the University of Michigan arrived with a partial merit scholarship, I held it for almost an hour, unable to believe it was real. All my hard work had finally paid off. I imagined sharing the moment with my family. I pictured my mom hugging me and my dad saying, "That's my smart girl." But deep down, I knew the reality wouldn't look like my dream. That evening, while the family ate lukewarm spaghetti, I opened the envelope and said, "I got into college, Michigan. They offered me a partial scholarship. I can go." My mom looked up from her phone, raising an eyebrow. "Michigan? Are you seriously planning to leave home?" My dad chuckled while chewing his spaghetti. "That school's full of rich kids. What? You think you're some genius now? Finish your degree and you'll still end up unemployed back here, like the other kids from the block." Then he turned to my mom and grinned. "Told you. Girl reads too much." Fried her brain. I held the letter like it was a treasure. I said, "I'm not leaving home. I just want a chance. I'll get a job. I'll manage on my own." My mom sighed. "And who's going to clean the house? Who's going to help with groceries? You don't just walk out on responsibilities whenever you feel like it. No congratulations. No hugs. No proud smiles." I cleared the dishes like I did every night and went back to my room. I sat on the floor. My emotions were a storm, part joy, part sorrow, part anger, part exhaustion. But more than anything, I felt disappointment. Not because they rejected my dream, but because they didn't even try to understand it. 3 months later, I got the official email confirming my scholarship. I quietly started preparing. I picked up a job at a pizza shop to save what little money I could. I scavenged used textbooks from the library. I packed the essentials into cardboard boxes I grabbed from the local grocery store. The morning I left, the sky was gray from the previous night's rain. My dad was still asleep. My mom was deep in a Facebook debate about how to make cornbread without baking powder. I said, "I'm leaving now." No one looked up. Just a voice from behind. "Don't go wasting money on nonsense." I closed the door and dragged my suitcase down the gravel road I had walked 1,000 times as a kid. Each step felt heavier than the last. No one saw me off. No one hugged me. No one said, "We're proud of you." But I kept walking. I didn't know what waited for me in Ann Arbor, but I knew one thing for sure. I couldn't go back. Not if I still wanted to become who I was meant to be. I arrived in Ann Arbor on an August morning. Early mist still clung to the red-tiled roofs. The trees whispered overhead. The bus station was nearly a mile from my dorm, so I dragged my cheap suitcase along uneven sidewalks. I felt lonely at every step. The dorm I was assigned to had 3 floors. My room was a small corner on the 2nd floor. A single bed, a desk, and an old wooden dresser. I shared the room with Talara, a third-year law student from New Jersey. She was sharp, organized, and directed, which intimidated me at first. But Talara also asked me a simple question. "Coming all the way out here, did your parents drop you off?" I didn't know what to say, so I just smiled and nodded. I wasn't ready for anyone to know the truth, that I had boarded a Greyhound bus like someone fleeing a place that had never truly welcomed her. During my first week, I landed a job at a little sandwich shop called Gracie's Subs, 6 blocks from campus. My schedule quickly filled. Full-time classes in the morning, work from 2 to 8, then studying late into the night. My meals were stale sandwiches from the shop or 59-cent ramen from the dollar store. After a few weeks, I started losing sleep from sheer exhaustion. One day, I fell asleep during a macroeconomics discussion. My head slumped over my textbook, like I was trying to absorb knowledge by osmosis. My professor, Dr. Lang, noticed. He asked to speak with me after class. I thought he would scold me, but instead he asked, "How many jobs are you working?" When I answered honestly, he didn't judge. He just nodded thoughtfully and said, "I have a research assistant slot open. It's mostly data entry. Doesn't pay much, but the hours are flexible. Want to give it a try?" I said yes immediately. That job allowed me to cut back my hours at the sandwich shop and sit in an air-conditioned office for some afternoons. It was also in Dr. Lang's class that I met Arinder, a pre-med student with permanent dark circles under his eyes, and Nissa, a STEM major, a black girl with braided hair and a mind as sharp as a scalpel. The 3 of us started studying together at the library on weekends. Slowly, they became the first people I could truly open up to. One night, while Arinder and I were working on an assignment at 1 a.m., he joked, "Lyriel, when was the last time you actually rested?" I shrugged. "Middle school, maybe." Nissa chimed in, pretending to be serious. "We should start a club. People who don't understand the concept of relaxation." And just like that, the name The Survival Trio was born. They weren't just classmates. They were the only people who truly understood me. They understood counting every dollar on the electricity torrent, measuring each meal, skipping parties, not because we didn't want to, but because we couldn't afford it. My family never called to ask if I was okay, what I was studying, how my friends were, or if I was tired. Every time my phone rang, I already knew what it would be about. There were only 3 things it could be. Mom would call me to check the electric torrent because she thought the company was tricking us or charging too much. Dad would call to ask me to look up the prices to fix the water heater or, even worse, ask, "Do you have any money left? I need to buy a few things." Over time, I learned to quietly breathe out after each call and go back to my homework as if nothing had happened. Not because it didn't hurt me, it hurt a lot, but because if I let myself really feel the sadness and disappointment, I knew I would fall apart. I couldn't let that happen. I had to stay strong, even if it was hard. Every semester, I worked very hard and kept my grades high. My GPA was over 3.9, which was really good. I still don't understand how I managed to do it, but somehow I just did. I threw myself into my books, into my work, into anything I could do to forget that my life often felt empty and lonely. It was like living in the shadow of what should have been a happy family life, but I had learned to survive in my own way. For years went by faster than I expected. Before I knew it, my final spring semester had arrived. The days were bathed in soft, golden sunlight, and I was racing to finish my senior thesis. Something exciting happened, too. I was nominated for a very special internship at a company in Austin that worked with sustainable investments, companies that helped the environment. This was a big deal, and I had worked so hard for it. And my friends did well, too. Irinder got accepted into medical school, and Nissa got an offer from a nanomaterials research program, which is a very advanced science program. We called ourselves the Survival Trio because we had gone through every hard thing together and had made it to the top. Now we were standing at the summit of our own hard work, ready to take the next step, graduation. I truly believed this time my parents would come. They had to. How could they miss the day their daughter became the first person in our family to graduate from college? I had been waiting for this for 14 years, and I was not about to let them miss it. I started planning for the big day 3 months before graduation. I mailed them an official invitation with a campus map, parking instructions, a list of nearby restaurants, and even a handwritten note. I wanted everything to be perfect. I also booked a hotel room so they would have a place to stay, and I told them not to worry about it. Then I called my mom directly to make sure they got everything. Her voice sounded unusually excited. "We got it. Don't worry, sweetheart. There's no way we'd miss your graduation, right?" Hearing her say that, I felt tears coming to my eyes. I had waited so long to hear words like that. I had saved almost $400 for the hotel, which was about 3 weeks of my work at Gracie's, where I did shifts and saved every tip I could. I didn't mind spending that money. I called it an investment in a memory I would never forget. I also reserved a table at Via Rosi, a nice Italian restaurant that wasn't too fancy, but perfect for the occasion. I even chose the dishes I knew my parents liked: vegetable lasagna for Mom and red wine braised beef for Dad. I remembered he once said it was a dish you remember for life. Every week, I called my parents to count down the days. 6 weeks left, Mom and Dad. Only 3 more weeks. I would say. They would reply, "Yes, your dad is looking for a nice shirt." Every little word felt like a knot in a rope I was holding on to. Each word gave me hope I had held on to my whole life. I clung to it like a lifeline, because I had learned that hope was sometimes the only thing that kept me going. But like so many things in my life, that rope started to fray. 3 weeks before graduation, I brought up the parking passes. Mom immediately changed the subject. "I'm cutting fruit." "Honey, you're talking too fast." I felt a pang in my chest. 2 weeks before graduation, I texted her a photo of my graduation dress. She replied, "Pretty much." And that was it. That same weekend, I found out that the Martas, our famous neighbors, were throwing the biggest Super Bowl party ever. They were even hiring an outside chef to cook for it. I froze. The Martas. Super Bowl. These were 2 words I had heard over and over as a child. They always had the biggest parties, with all the best food, and everyone invited. And now, that party was scheduled for the same weekend as my graduation. I texted Mom. "I thought you said you were definitely coming." The next day, she replied, "Your dad's shoulder hurts. He can't drive that far. You know I'm not good with highways. And Cyrene asked me to make cheesecake. She's counting on me." I couldn't believe it. The graduation ceremony was scheduled for 10 a.m. on Sunday. The Super Bowl didn't start until 6 p.m. They could have easily made it. They just didn't want to. I texted her again. Mom, this is the day I've spent 4 years working toward. It's also the first time someone in our family will graduate from college. It's a big deal. Her reply came 5 minutes later. Don't make such a fuss, honey. There will be plenty of other occasions. I bit my lip hard and went silent. I didn't send anything else. When I went to pick up my graduation gown and cap, the staff handed me a pressed black robe and a shimmering purple tassel. I quickly turned away, afraid they would see my eyes already turning red. Torin, my friend, had reserved seats for all of us, but the 3 chairs where my parents should have been were empty. The night before graduation, I prepared carefully. My dress was ironed, shoes polished, and honor cords draped around my neck. My name was printed in the commencement program. Natalie Kane, GPA 3.93, Pi Beta Kappa. I wanted everything to be perfect, even if they weren't coming. At nearly midnight, I left a voicemail for my parents. Tomorrow's graduation. The ceremony starts at 10 o'clock. I saved your seats. If Dad's tired, Mom can drive. Even if you're late, I still hope to see you. I'll be waiting. The next morning, I woke up at 6 a.m., got dressed quietly, tied my hair into a neat bun, and dabbed a little blush on so I wouldn't look too pale. I left the dorm early. The campus was already packed with families and friends. Everyone had someone. Some kids had grandmas in wheelchairs. Little siblings ran through the grass wearing t-shirts with the graduate's face printed on them. Laughter filled the air. Names were being called. Cameras clicked. It all felt like waves crashing around me. I walked to the student check-in area. In the pocket of my gown, I kept my phone, just in case my parents were running late. At 9:52 a.m., my screen lit up. My heart clenched, but it wasn't a text message. It was a Facebook notification. Varela Kane had posted 3 new photos. The first photo showed a food table overflowing with cheesecake, snacks, and chilled beer. The second showed my mother with Cyrene, both grinning in matching team jerseys. The third was a group selfie in front of a giant TV screen with the caption, Super Bowl Sunday greater than any other celebration. I checked the time. 9:56 a.m. I stood frozen. My hands trembled so badly I had to hold my gown collar to steady myself. Then the voice over the loudspeaker called my name. Lyriel Kane. I swallowed the lump in my throat. I took a deep breath and walked into the center of the field, surrounded by hundreds of clapping hands. They were clapping for me, not my parents. I bowed, received my diploma, and smiled for the camera. Just as I turned to walk off the stage, I looked to the second row on the left. 3 empty seats that were never used. After the ceremony, while everyone was taking photos with their families, I slipped past them quietly, avoiding the cameras and the pitying looks. I walked straight back to my dorm. When the door closed behind me, I finally allowed myself to collapse, head in my hands, and cry. Not because my parents didn't show up, but because I had truly believed this time would be different. 2 days later, my phone rang. It was Dad. My voice was still raw. I answered. Hello. His voice came through light as ever. Hey, Lyriel. I need a favor. The roof's leaking. Looks like the back half is shot. The repair guy says it will cost around $3,200. Your mom said you got some graduation money. At that moment, I realized something important. To them, my college degree mattered less than a roof repair. I don't remember how I ended the call. I just remember sitting on my bed afterward, motionless for almost an hour, staring at a tiny crack in the ceiling. That one sentence kept echoing in my head. Your mom said you got some graduation money. No congratulations. No, we're proud of you. Just a request. Once again, they needed something from me. Money, patience, energy, anything I had left. And the worst part, I had let it happen for far too long. That night, I didn't sleep. I quietly opened the graduation photos my friend Avera had sent me. Pictures of me standing with my friends, still smiling despite red, puffy eyes. Photos of me receiving my diploma. The sunlight caught the folds of my gown, making them glow, but it felt empty and hollow. I opened my laptop and logged into the employee portal of Green Cap Investment Group, the company I had accepted an offer from 3 weeks earlier. I typed a short email to the hiring manager. Due to unexpected personal circumstances, I would like to begin earlier than my original start date. I'm ready to relocate to Austin anytime. The next morning, I got a reply almost immediately. We fully support the change. The company will provide 2 weeks of temporary housing. Please let us know your flight details so we can arrange your welcome. I read that line over and over. It was a lifeline. A new city, a place without people who hurt me with words. A space where I could start over and carry only my own hopes and expectations. I packed my things. Not much. A few changes of clothes, my laptop, textbooks, and a single framed photo of me with Arinder, Nissa, and Talara from an all-night study session. People who had stood beside me simply because they cared, not because they needed anything from me. Before leaving Ann Arbor, I called my mom. I'm moving to Austin next Tuesday. I can't help with the roof right now. I need some time to sort things out in my heart. When I'm ready, I'll reach out. Silence. Finally, she replied, her voice tight with irritation. You're talking like we did something terrible. Family helps each other. Don't forget who raised you. I bit my lip, trying to keep calm. I haven't forgotten. But helping should come from love, not from guilt or obligation. I whispered goodbye and hung up. That evening, I went back to the old pizza place where our group used to meet. Arinder handed me a small leather notebook with a note inside. Write the next chapter in your own language. Nissa hugged me and said simply, Austin has no idea what just hit it. I laughed genuinely. For the first time in weeks, that laugh wasn't part of a performance. On Tuesday morning, I rolled my suitcase out of the dorm, taking one last look at the campus that had become my second home over the past 4 years. I didn't know exactly what awaited me in Austin, but I knew one thing for sure. I was bringing with me the only person I could truly count on, myself. And that was enough. I walked to the car, suitcase in hand, and thought about everything I had survived. Every call asking for money. Every disappointed hope. Every lonely night of studying while everyone else seemed to have families cheering for them. I had climbed through dust, cracks, and invisible walls, and now I was free. The air felt lighter, the sun brighter, and the future full of possibilities. I didn't need anyone to cheer for me. I had already learned to cheer for myself. As the airplane lifted off the ground, I pressed my face against the small window. Below me, the tiny houses looked like little toys. The streets were so small they could fit in the palm of my hand. I felt a strange mixture of excitement and relief. I wasn't just leaving a city behind. I was leaving an old version of myself behind, a version that had spent too much time trying to make other people happy. People who would never truly notice me. I wasn't mad at them anymore. I had just let go. I had decided that my happiness and my life mattered, even if others didn't understand it. When the plane touched down in Austin, I was met with hot, dry air that felt different from anywhere I had ever been. It was a heavy kind of heat, but it didn't feel suffocating. Somehow it felt free. It felt like a place where I could breathe. The temporary apartment that Green Cap had arranged for me was on the 12th floor of a tall, modern building in South Congress. From the windows, I could see the city stretching out in every direction, tall buildings and tiny houses, all mixing together like a living map. I felt like the city was whispering to me, "This is your chance to start over. This is your freedom." The apartment was small but clean. It had a tiny kitchen with shiny countertops and cupboards where I could store my food. The floor-to-ceiling windows let in sunlight in the morning, pouring warm golden light across the floor. I had never lived anywhere like this before, where nothing reminded me of duty or responsibility, and everything seemed to promise new beginnings. I could just sit in the sunlight and breathe, feeling the stress of the past slowly sliding off my shoulders. The first week at the new company felt like a dream. My coworkers were kind and welcoming. My manager genuinely cared about us and our work, not just the numbers or the results. No one pried into my personal life unless I wanted to share something. I had lunch with a few other new hires, walking past small cafes and shops, snizzling fresh bread and coffee in the air. One day, I bought my first bouquet of flowers for myself. I placed the bright, colorful flowers in a glass jar on my desk. It was such a simple thing, but it made me feel like I had control over something in my life, however small. I hadn't called or texted home once. I wanted to give myself space to be a new person, someone who didn't always have to be the good daughter or the family support person. I wanted to see what life was like without my mother's criticism or my father's skeptical gaze. And I realized it was easier to breathe. Then one Saturday morning, my phone started buzzing. I ignored it at first, but the buzzing didn't stop. I picked it up slowly, and my chest tightened when I saw the name Mom appear on the screen. It had been 7 months since I had last spoken to them. For 7 months, silence. And now, suddenly, my mom was calling me. I didn't tremble this time. I didn't answer. A few minutes later, a text appeared on my screen. It said, "Dad and I are thinking of visiting Austin. Found cheap tickets for next weekend. Are you free? I stared at the words as if they were moving slowly like waves in the ocean. Not a single check-in for half a year. And now suddenly they wanted to come see me. I wasn't sure what the real reason was, but I knew my parents. They didn't visit anyone without a specific plan or reason. After a few hours, I decided to reply. I wrote carefully, making sure my tone was calm. If you come, you should stay at a hotel near downtown. My apartment's too small for guests. Mom read the message immediately, but didn't reply until the evening. When she did, it came with a list of hotel options and another message. Is this one close to your place? Pricey. Are you sure we can't stay with you? I held my boundary. I needed my own space. I expected anger or guilt tripping. But surprisingly, her next message was unusually sweet. All right, then I'll book the hotel for 2 nights. Make sure you find time to see us, okay? I agreed to meet them, partly because I was curious, and partly because I felt strong enough to face them. They arrived on Friday afternoon. My mom stepped out of the taxi, holding a bag of homemade cookies. She smiled, but her eyes didn't reach the smile. My dad looked older, grayer, and a little hunched over. His shoulders were slumped, and he wore the same tired plaid shirt he always wore. I hugged them politely. They hugged me back, but I could feel the distance between us. I was a new version of myself, and they were still the people who had never understood me. That first evening, I took them to a Tex-Mex restaurant near downtown. Mom smiled awkwardly during most of the meal. Dad stared at the menu like it was impossible to believe a taco could cost almost $10. They asked a few polite questions about my work. I explained, finance firm, ESG investments, analyzing data, checking risks for renewable energy projects. Mom nodded, but she kept her eyes on her plate. Dad took a sip of his beer and then suddenly said, Actually, we came to Austin because there's something we need to talk to you about. My heart sank. I had heard that line a million times before. I knew exactly what was coming. Dad started talking about a friend named Caver who was starting a small real estate company. They wanted me to invest $5,000 and explained how it could make money. Mom added her sweet, rehearsed voice. Of course, we're not pressuring you. We just thought this could be a great opportunity for you to help the family a little. I looked at them. These were the same parents who had never once put me first, who had left me to walk across the graduation stage alone, who had asked for money instead of care. And now, after flying all the way to see me, they wanted money. I placed my hands on the table and looked them straight in the eyes. I asked calmly but clearly, Did you come here for me or for the money? Silence. The air became thick and cold. Mom let out a tight smile, her voice sweet but rehearsed. Sweetheart, why would you say that? We're your parents. We came to see you. The investment thing just happened to come up, that's all. I didn't reply. I just held my gaze, daring them to see the truth they had always avoided. Dad crossed his arms and leaned back. That kind of talk is disrespectful. We flew all this way, and now you're acting like we're freeloaders. I took a deep breath. No, Dad. I'm just trying to separate love from obligation. Every time we needed family, we were optional. But whenever you needed something from us, we became a duty. Mom set her napkin down and laughed dryly. You're blowing this way out of proportion. It's just a small thing. You talk like we're villains. I shook my head gently. Do you realize that in all 4 years of college I never once heard you say, congratulations? My graduation, the most important day of my life. I stood under the burning sun waiting for you. 3 empty seats. And you posted pictures of tacos and beer instead. You don't think that's wrong? My final words came out in a near whisper, thick with emotion. Dad snapped, voice hard and sharp. You're still a kid talking like you've got all the answers. Families are supposed to support each other. I thought you understood that. I looked at him, and for the first time, I understood clearly. He didn't think he was wrong. He only saw my resistance. And to him, that meant I was ungrateful. Mom's eyes started to glisten. Sweetheart, I know we've made mistakes. But you're so cold. Do you think it didn't hurt us when you left and never called? I replied in a calm voice that surprised even me. I didn't leave. I walked away from a relationship that only ever flowed one way. That's the only thing that kept me alive. I stood up, picked up my wallet, and left my card on the table. I would pay for dinner, like I had paid for everything else, including trust. Dad called after me, voice rising. If you walk away now, don't expect us to open our hearts again. I turned back one last time. You don't need to open your hearts. You just need to learn how to look back. As for me, I've already learned enough. I walked out of the restaurant. Austin had just seen a light rain. Each step felt like a weight was lifting off my back. Raindrops dotted my jacket, and my heart felt heavy but lighter than it had ever been. That night, a message came from the hotel. "Can you drive us to the airport tomorrow morning? Taxis are expensive here." I didn't reply immediately. I brewed a cup of hot tea, sat by the window, and watched the city lights shimmer like tiny veins of life. Slowly, I typed a message. "Walk 3 blocks to the metro rail station. The red line goes straight to the airport. $3.25 per person. Safe travels." I set the phone down, turned off notifications, and returned to the warmth of my apartment. No more waiting. I had done the right thing. I had chosen myself. And this time I didn't look back. 1 year later, on the same day, I walked the trail around Ladybird Lake in Austin. My sneakers were dusty from the path, and the early morning breeze brushed gently through my hair. The sun was just rising, casting soft golden light over the water. I was alone, and I didn't need anyone else to be there. I was no longer the girl in the black graduation gown who had finished college in silence. I was Lyriel Kane, senior financial analyst at Greencap Investment Group. I had my own small apartment in East Austin. The shelves were filled with books I had collected myself. Photo frames captured laughter and joy. A basket by the window held my cat, basking in the sunlight. I had built this life brick by brick, moment by moment. It was mine. No one had given it to me. I had created it with my own hands. After the confrontation with my parents, things didn't go completely silent, but they were quiet enough that I felt safe. Mom still sent messages now and then about the neighbors, the weather, or gossip from Toledo. I responded politely, briefly, and never let the words reach my heart. I had clear financial boundaries. No money transfers. No joint investments. No emergency rescues. I sent birthday cards with modest gift cards. I was no longer their backup bank. I was an adult who had the right to say no. Last week, I was invited to join the advisory board for a program supporting first-generation college students at the University of Michigan. I said yes immediately. And that morning, I was meeting Nyara, a junior from El Paso. She was unsure whether to pursue a degree in economics. Her parents wanted her to pick something practical and safe. I smiled sadly as I read her words. I saw my younger self reflected in her hesitation. But this time, I knew I wasn't trapped in my past. I lived in the present, a present I had chosen. I still went to work every day, diving into reports and analyzing data. But I also carved time for myself. Saturday afternoons were for farmers markets. Wednesday nights were for board games with my friends. I no longer felt guilty for enjoying life simply because I wanted to. I had learned that happiness didn't need anyone's permission. On my coffee table sat a small photo frame. It held a picture of me in my graduation gown with Avera, Irinder, Nissa, and Talara. Not one of them shared my blood, but every one of them was family I had chosen. The kind that never left me, never demanded anything, never turned love into a transaction. I used to believe that walking alone meant I had failed. That if no one was there to cheer for me, my victory didn't matter. But now I knew walking alone wasn't failure. It was freedom. I unlocked my phone for the first time in a year and posted my graduation picture publicly. No tags, no mentions. Just a caption. Walking alone isn't failure. It's the first step toward freedom. I left it there. No need for validation. No need for permission. Just the truth as it stands. And for the first time, I felt completely free.